Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm excited to have back on the show one of my favorite podcast friends, Mr. Michael Mott is in studio with me. Of course, he's a distinguished composer, lyricist, and singer based in beautiful downtown New York City. With a career spanning musical theater to pop music, Michael's garnered international acclaim for his compelling compositions and dynamic performances. His notable works include the musical In the Light, a Faustian tale, which you know I love, and the album Where the Sky Ends, with much, much more. On December 7th of this year, Michael presents his 5th annual holiday show, Broadway Holiday, Michael Mott and Friends, at the Green Room 42 in New York City. The event promises an enchanting evening of holiday classics and also original pieces showcasing Michael's versatility and passion for music. I'm a huge fan of Michael's show and can't wait to hear what he has in store, but first, let's take a look.
I am Michael Mott, and these are my friends.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring ting tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Yes, I never thought of Christmas when I say goodbye. Never knew how much I missed us. Only heartache without you by my side. Glory to the newborn King.
Well, Michael Mott, happy holidays, my friend. I'm excited to have something to look forward to after this damn election. How are you holding up, my friend? Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, that I don't think that was the result that most of us wanted. Well, actually, it was the result most of us wanted, apparently, but not
Right.
what I wanted or most of my friends in the entertainment business. But all we can do is accept what it is and do our best to make sure that our rights and our loved ones' rights are protected.
Well, and like always, artists are the ones who get us through there. So thank you so much for doing this and keeping up your good work, because it's going to be a tough 4 years to go through. So we need songs, we need Broadway, we need movies, we need television that's going to help uplift us as well as stick up for our community. So thanks for all you do and all you have done, my friend.
Well, let's hope the National Endowment of the Arts and the funding for arts is fed, because it's so hard to make art. And there's barely any money as it is. And there's no money in it when you're making it, So let's just hope that it sustains.
Exactly. Well, I think our last conversation we had on social media, you were at the Village Theater in Issaquah, Washington,
yes,
where the 21st Annual Festival of Music was happening. They featured 4 new musicals, one of those being yours, And Sometimes Love, which we talked about in the last podcast. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. It's here on the piano.
There it is.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you. You got in touch with me. We got in touch with each other. We were trying to get my friend that lives in Spokane out to review it, and it was just too short a notice for him to drive across. But tell me about that. How was that experience out there?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was the second iteration of this musical. The musical used to be called The Fairy's Tale, And there's talk of us maybe going back to that title. It's very early in its journey. We did a presentation here in New York City in 2023. It's the first time we ever heard it out loud. Then we got this amazing opportunity to do it at the Village Theater in Issaquah, Washington, right outside Seattle. And we were very happy with the changes we made. And we learned a lot seeing it again, and we just made even more changes. And just next week, we're hopefully going to do like a private table read with myself and the director and the book writer, just to see if this new version is working for us or not. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff happening with that I will share when the time is right. And
well, it sounds amazing. I mean, that was kind of the focus of our last conversation on air here. We talked about it, and you kind of introduced me to who it was based on, and I just fell down a rabbit hole of following everything she does. What an amazing person that is. But
yeah, so I'll tell your listeners about that. It's I bought the life rights to a woman whose story went viral, and I think 2017. Her name is Ariana Rose, and I musicalized her story. She told her story at the Moth. It went viral on YouTube, then it went viral on Instagram, then it went viral on TikTok. And it's a beautiful 6-minute video if you have the time to watch it. And I turned it into a 90-minute one-act musical. And I'm so proud of it. It's so beautiful and so heartbreaking and so romantic and so lush. And I hope that a greater audience gets to witness the musical soon.
I'll have to link it again below because, like I said, I just fell in love with it and just kind of researched all I could when we talked about it last time. Such an amazing story that she has.
Yes.
And I mean, you brought some star power to Washington for this. I mean, Antonio Cipriani and all these other people talk about, I mean, you had to probably be the highest wattage in the theater, I would think. But did they have fun going there and being able to kind of share this work with everybody?
They did. We had the fortune of having Eden Espinosa, Tony nominee Eden Espinosa, star as Ariana, and Antonio Cipriano star as her love interest. And it's a 3-person show. We cast a local girl named Julia Kuzmich as the third role, but it's really a 2-person show. It's really Ariana and her love interest Gianluca. And yeah, the theater offered us the writers and 1 star to come down there. And I said, well, we have a director and another guy that it's really a 2-person show and I need them all to come with us. And so we raised the money. We found the money somehow. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And we brought our director and Antonio down, and it was a wonderful week. We learned so much. So I'm happy to see the show develop and hopefully get off the ground.
I bet. Well, we're going to talk all about this holiday show in a second, but you've been on the show 6 times now. And every time we talk about a fantastic new project you've done, let's kind of reacquaint maybe some of my newer listeners with your story. I mean, you came from humble shopkeepers' parents to going to school with Jeremy Jordan to just making friends with anyone who's anyone in Broadway and doing these fantastic musicals you've written, from Mob Wife to a little bit of early on Lucifer, which I love.
Wow.
Talk about how this entire kind of career came to be. Remind everybody.
My initial dream was to be on Saturday Night Live. All I wanted to do was be a sketch comic because that's all I knew. I was always being like the class clown, and I used to film my own SNLs in my basement. I used to write skits, and my mom was cool enough to allow me to turn the entire basement into separate studio spaces. So I would have like my own Weekend Update space, and she took me to like Home Depot, and I like painted a set, and then I like put it up against the wall, and then I would film it on Friday nights, not on Saturdays. And my friends in high school, I was like giving contracts to, and I was like, on Friday night, you're going to be a cast member. And I would write during the week, and then they would come and do it on the weekends. And like, I can't believe that was my life at 15, but that's what I did. And then it wasn't until honestly junior year of high school that I discovered musical theater, and my history teacher saw this in me and said, you need to audition for the school musical. And I was like, I don't sing, I don't do that. I was like super like hyper, like had toxic masculinity, and like I was like, absolutely not, I don't sing, there's nothing, and then I discovered I could sing, and I started getting all this acclaim and praise for my voice, and I was like, oh wait, what's this? And I sort of fell into the rabbit hole, and then I auditioned for school. I mean, it's kind of crazy to talk about, 1 year of singing, and then I auditioned for Ithaca College musical theater program, and I get in, and I'm thinking like, oh, this is my life now, and it's kind of wild to talk about, but that's how it happened for me, and
It's
I've been
gotta
bit,
be. I
and now
mean,
I love it.
was any of this in your wildest dreams going through this even in college?
I didn't think, because I don't pursue acting and singing much anymore, although in these concerts I do sing. I'm slowly starting to get back into it. I've been mainly writing for the last decade and creating shows and making albums and doing music videos and doing concerts. And I will sing in my concerts. I'll sing 1 or 2 songs in my concerts. But I have not pursued life as an actor or a singer really in a decade. And I could never imagine that I'd be doing this, because I'm able to create my own life, which I'm so grateful for, and to also have an audience that listens, and to have an audience that buys the music and attends the concerts. It's really, they are the reason that I'm able to do this. If they weren't there, then I'd be doing something else. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, and you've worked with such amazing collaborators and everything. We've talked
Yeah.
before. Our good friend Jenna Ushkowitz, who's should having a
Love
baby any
her.
day now, of course.
Any day, baby number
Which is
2.
exciting. I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, I talked about the interesting Where the Sky Ends, and just everybody that was on that album, from from Zachary Levi, who I'm not as big a fan of anymore, to everybody else. It was just a huge accomplishment. You've worked with Laura Ossos. You've worked with so many great people. Talk about what draws you to a person. How do you know who you want to collaborate with, and what song does it really match their voices? Does it match with people you want to work with? Or how do you kind of determine who these great collaborators are going to be?
Well, okay, so 2 things about that. With Where the Sky Ends, it was my first album. I was 26. I didn't know really what I was doing. I had my best friend, Jeremy Jordan, and that was it. And it was at the time when he was blowing up with Newsies, and so everyone knew who he was.
Right.
I had known him for a decade prior to that, right? But the world was starting to know him, and people were starting to fanboy over him. So I used him, and I used his name to go to Sierra Boggess, to go to Orfeh. And I would be like, well, Jeremy's on this, will you do it? And that's how I actually negotiated with Zachary Levi. I think I had negotiated with like his sister and his lawyer or something at the time. And I was like 26, and they were like, he needs X amount of money. And I was like, he's not getting that. I don't have that. And they were like, well, he's the biggest name you have. And I was also like, well, he's the least trained vocalist of everyone I have too. Like, I was negotiating with these people via email. And I got him, and it worked. And he was wonderful. He did a great job in the studio. He was so talented. And now I get this question a lot, which I don't even really think about. I think I know the sound of what I want in my head for each song that I write, and then I come up with a list of, well, who could do this? Yada, 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 and then I offer it to them, and that's how it works out.
Nice.
And then I'll also tailor it to them once I hear them sing it. Like Aisha Jackson, the great Aisha Jackson, I wrote a song called Fly High, and she recorded it. That is probably one of the best vocals I'll ever have in any of my songs. And that came out last year. Yeah, earlier this year. Sorry, it came out in February of this year. And she brought that song to new heights. I imagined it in my head, but what she did was so much better than what I could have imagined. So, yeah.
So good. I love that. I love that so much. What's harder for you, composing an amazing score and songwriting, or wrangling 4 or 5 friends to do a live event somewhere?
They're both equally challenging in a very different way. I kind of have this holiday show down pat. It's a science, and I have my system for it. I have a 9-piece live band and then guest vocalists. And so it's typically the same, a couple of different players this year, because one of them is going to be on Saturday Night Live the night of the show, and she can't do it. She's playing with someone else, which I get. Probably pays much better than what I can give them. And someone else is doing the Rockettes. And so, I had to switch out a couple of players. But for the most part, it's the same people that have been playing with me for 10 years. So we kind of have our system down. The guest vocalists change every year.
Right. So
that is challenging in getting everyone's schedules together. But writing a show is very, very challenging, because you're telling a story through music. And for me, I'm sure a much more accomplished composer does not have this problem, but I will write the draft, see it, and realize, oh, this moment here actually needs to be the theme that's happening over here. So let me rewrite this song using that theme, and I'll kind of write it as a puzzle. It becomes a puzzle piece, and I will create my shows almost like putting a quilt together and knowing, oh, it's missing this now, it's missing. And that's why it kind of takes me a long time to write the score, because like in the light score has been rewritten so many times, and people like yourself respond so well to that score. But what they don't really see is the 9 or 10 drafts underneath each song that led to the song that you finally care about. There's a song in And Sometimes Love that I thought when I wrote it, was like, yeah, this is perfect. And we're now on the 3rd draft, and I'm like, maybe this is the completely wrong song that I need to rewrite from scratch. And I don't know. We're going to try it out next week, and see if this works or not. And then if not, I got to go back to the drawing board. So the writing a score is very challenging.
That's what I thought. And that was actually one of my follow-up questions, is I'm sure you do have a lot of these previews for a lot of these great works and everything. And I'm sure that's the audience has to affect the entire process, right? I mean, that's got to be a huge part of it.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because there was a song that we did in Seattle that the audience they had audience feedback at the Village Theater, and we had 500-seat house, 368 or something people wrote their feedback to us, and all of them mentioned one song in particular that I was like, okay, well, clearly this is the song that's resonating, but I want more than one to resonate, so let me go back to the drawing board and write a couple more of that. And I feel like now there's at least 3, so we'll see. But it's a 90-minute show. Sorry. I'm thinking about the Christmas concert is a 75-minute show, and Sometimes Love is a 90-minute show. So, you want to have some moments where the audience is taken by the score, right, and, hopefully goes home and wants to listen to it again and again and again.
Amazing. And I talked about in the beginning, you've done such different musical influences, from operatic to pop culture to everything to rock and roll. How do you incorporate these diverse musical influences into your work to create a unique sound for each one? Do you kind of have an idea going into it, or how do these different sounds come to you at the time?
Well, I think it's, in this Christmas show, for example, every style of music is covered in this show. And I think maybe that's a little bit more acceptable because it's a holiday concert and it's a compilation of material. A musical is a very different story, because you're kind of getting into a world, you're setting a world and a tone and a time period and a place. And those characters bring their own sounds to the table. So, for example, we're talking about And Sometimes Love. It's about a 43-year-old Latino woman from the Bronx who meets a 23-year-old Italian boy living in Europe. They're going to have different sounds. And so that's going to influence the sound of the score in the show. But again, the holiday show, there's a 1950s kind of like nod. With a new song, there's classical operatic music, there's pop music, there's symphonic music, there's orchestral music, there's, comedic music. And I think the through line really is me. And whether my song is produced to be done for, a 4-piece band, to be done with a pop production, or to be done with a 100-piece orchestra, you still hear me in it. So I don't think it really changes much, to be honest.
And talk about the inspiration to start the Broadway holiday show. I mean, I think the first time I came across you was back in 2016 when you were doing Michael Mott and Friends at 54 Below. And you've been doing it before that at Long Island or different places outside of the city. Talk about the incarnation of Michael Mott and Friends back in the day, and when you decided to make it a holiday show.
So I would have the fortune of doing concerts here in New York every couple of, it's like 2-3 times a year I do concerts here. And then it was actually in, I think 2018 or 2019, I can't remember, that 54 Below hosted a show for me that was right after Thanksgiving. And so I thought, well, it's after Thanksgiving, before Christmas, I should do some holiday tunes. And so it started with like 3 or 4 of my original holiday tunes, amidst my theater and pop music. And then the pandemic happened, and then we moved over to the Green Room 42, and we started doing this every year. And every year it would be almost like a recap of what had happened that year, whether, you know, my musical had a workshop in London, and so here's 2 songs from that musical with 2 of the cast members, and then also here's some holiday songs, right? And what ended up happening is this year, for the 5-year anniversary, and that's been the case up until last year, I would always incorporate pop songs, theater songs of what had happened that year. You know, this song won an award wherever, and then I would do that song. But I got a concert booking agent, and she was like, I think there's a market for this, and like, let me represent you, but you got to do only holiday music. And so I've spent the last year rewriting and cutting all of my pop stuff, all of my theater stuff, and just putting together a 75-minute show of my arrangements and mashups and medleys of traditional holiday music, and as well as a few of my award-winning, quote-unquote, award-winning original holiday songs. So it's very cool. There's, you know, people will hear a song start, and then they'll be in for a surprise. They'll hear 2 or 3 holiday songs within that one. So every song is a mashup or a medley, and it's very cool. I'm very excited by it.
Well, you're so talented with all that, and I love the creative process behind everything you do, because you just bring everything together. Now, how do you, as both a composer of these original and a performer, how do you kind of balance those roles in the show? That's got to be kind of fun thing to do, and how much to let your guests shine, and how much you get to kind of scratch that itch that you only get to perform so many times a year. So that's got to be fun too.
Yeah, you're asking all the right questions, actually, because I, for the first year ever in my life, have said, you know what? I am not going to stress out about trying to learn this because here's the deal. I'm writing the piece, I'm sitting at the piano, I'm singing the piece, I'm playing the piano, and I'm conducting the 9-piece band with my head while singing. So if I'm like, right? I can't. So this year I decided I'm going to stand up and sing 2 songs with my own 2 feet on the floor.
Wow.
Not my butt. I know. I was like, let me stand up like I did 12 years ago, like I used to. So I'm not going to give myself this stress. I'm too old for it. But then the rest, I'm going to sit and play and sing a couple sitting down. To make it even, I always make sure the guests have at least, everyone has equal number of songs. I'm always very like, if Sarah has 5, then Henry has 5. And if I have 4 or 5, fine. But I always make it even. And I always make sure that they're showcased.
You might have to actually starch and iron the pants for the first time, right? Stand up.
Start wearing them for the first time.
There you go. Better
yeah,
yet.
Who wears pants? Exactly.
I love that. Do you have a memorable moment from one of the past 5 shows that really sticks out in your head?
You know what it is? It's debuting new material and the excitement of the band. Maybe it's just me, but the excitement of hearing that for the first time and getting the audience reaction. That's fun. Right. Last year, I wrote a mashup of We Three Kings, which was my 2 female background singers and Anne Fraser Thomas. I was like, wouldn't this be fierce if the 3 women sing an a cappella We Three Kings, but it's 3 women. And then it goes into Oh Come All You Faithful. And we did it last year, and spoiler alert, there's not a budget for any of this stuff. So we have 1 rehearsal, and then we do the show. So we had the rehearsal with the band, and it sounded great, but it was too like choral and perfect for me. And I was like, this is not working. I don't know why I don't like it. And I couldn't figure it out. And so we got to the sound check the day of the show, and we run the show, and we go through that song. And I was like, wait, I know what it is. I was like, okay, once we get to Oh Come All You Faithful, I just want this to be like pop, gospel, like soul. And I was like, Adam, the drummer, can you just come in with, like, this is not what's written on their music. And then I want the bass to come in here, and then like the electric guitar, just like power chords. And I said, Anne, can you belt the shit out of this? She was like, yeah, which Anne Fraser Thomas could sing anything. Like, she has no break in her voice. And so I told the background singers, I was like, just rock out. And we talked about it, but we didn't do it until the show. And that night we got to the song and I was like, look at the drummer. I'm like, you good with this? He's like, yeah. And we do it, and it was amazing. It was so freaking cool. The audience was like, what? That was probably my most favorite moment. And then this year, I've rewritten the song to do that. But last year, it was so in the moment to have 9 people just like know what we're doing, but never rehearse it. That was amazing.
That is amazing, because I have actually my notes, because I told you off air that one of the great things I love about the show now is you're streaming it every year. So last year was the first year I got to stream it, and I had that down in my notes, because that was such an amazing song to sort of know that you
Thanks.
did it on the fly. Is like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we did it in soundcheck, talked about it. And you know what's even funnier is we got to soundcheck and the piano was out of tune. And I was not happy with that. I was like, this piano, we have a show in an hour and a half and the piano's out of tune. So they called a piano tuner. Okay. Soundcheck was like 4:30 to 6. The audience shows up at 6. The show starts at 7. It was like 5:58 and we were in there and I was like, oh, I know what needs to happen with the song. We talked about it. The audience is lining up outside to come in. The piano tuner comes in. And instead of, the people coming in, sitting down, getting a meal, getting a cocktail, and listening to beautiful Christmas music, they're listening to this man come in here being like, ding, dun, dun, like hammering, tuning the piano for an hour. And we had to start the show 20 minutes late because this man was tuning the piano before the show started.
Oh my goodness.
It's just so funny. So
that's when you pipe in the non-used Christmas music really loud.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so excited for the show. It's December 7th this year. Like you said, always at the Green Room. Talk about your special guests. You have 4, of course, brand new special guests. Let everyone know who's going to be joining you this year.
Well, this year, I usually have 4. This year, I only have 2. It is Henry Platt, who is a wonderful, wonderful vocalist. I met him because he came to my And Sometimes Love reading, and he works for Warner Chappell Publishing. And so he and I had a meeting afterwards. I followed him on Instagram, and then he started sharing these videos of him singing. And I was like, wait, you're a singer too? I was like, your voice is incredible. And if you go check him out, he's got a voice of butter. He's the sweetest man ever. And I'm honored that he said yes to doing the show, because he's not pursuing a career as a vocalist, as an actor. He just happens to have an incredible voice and works this amazing music publishing job. And then has all these songs and videos released. He's very talented. Henry Platt. And then the youngest person to ever play Elphaba in Wicked, Sarah Ann Fernandez. Sarah starred in a workshop of my musical In the Light earlier this year. And I fell in love with her and her voice and knew I had to ask her to be part of this holiday show. So it's the 2 of them. And then I do have 2 background singers, Sarah Hamady and Lexi Rabady, who is new to the family this year. Lexi's brand new. And they are singing, of 15 songs, they're singing about 13. So I wanted to showcase them on the poster this year because they're singing so much.
How exciting. I love that, especially when you get to see new talent like that you don't expect. That is so cool. And there are a few tickets for in-person if you're in New York City, but like I said, the streaming is involved. That's kind of how was it? Last year was the first time, right? That you streamed it?
I think last year. I actually can't remember.
First time I saw it streaming, so I don't know. It might have been done the year before, but
in-person is always better. I'm a fan of in-person because we need that energy. Last year, we pretty much sold out. I think we had like 8 tickets left or something at the end of the day. Right. But we had a ton, because I have a nice following internationally. So we had a lot of international people tuning in. And I received messages afterwards. And I love the streaming aspect. But being in the room and feeling that energy from people is really what makes live performance so amazing, So I encourage people, if they can, to come in person. And it's right in Times Square. It's on 10th Avenue and 42nd Street at the Yotel Hotel, the Green Room 42. And it's like you can walk over to the Rockefeller Center and see the tree. You can go to the Bryant Park Village, the outdoor villages, which is so nice for the holidays. Ice skating. So I encourage people to come in person if you can.
A good time to be had by all. Try to get there. I say every year I'm going to try, but I never know. I know if I
I
can't, I
get
know at
it.
least I can stream it. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Tell me what's happening for Michael in 2025. Any plans yet? We talked a little bit about a table read for some things. What are you hoping?
Yeah,
I mean, it's so hard. It's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back for every project,
I
I'm
know.
sure. But what are you concentrating on in 2025?
Well, several things. The first one is this and sometimes love. I think is going to have some stuff happening, so I'll share more about that soon. I've been writing a new show for a little bit, which I'm very excited for. And we did a reading of the first act about 2 months ago, and it's so funny. It's something that I was like, I don't know if this works. I'm not sure. And I did the reading, and the response to that, and in my gut, I was like, oh, this is the one. It's like such a fine line of knowing, but something in me said that this show is going to be like the. I just feel very good about it. So I don't want to curse it, but we'll see. And when it's ready, I feel like I'll talk about that publicly. But I'm recording a lot of pop music right now. I'm just recording standalone songs. I have about 5 so far. And my goal in 2025 is to start releasing music because I have not put out music since February because I've been focusing so much on getting these musicals up and running off the ground. We just did a presentation of Mob Wife for a big Broadway producer, and the feedback was wonderful. I'm trying to see what can happen with that show. In the Light just happened here, and there's talk of Europe, so I'm seeing what will happen with that show, and sometimes Love seems to be the one that's going to move fast, and then this new show, we'll see what happens with. So I'm just, it's always a gamble. I'm just grateful to be able to do it, and yeah, I'm teaching voice lessons, love that, and
Right.
just trying to make it happen every day. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? But I talking to friends, it seems that no matter where you are in your career in this business, everyone thinks that. So that makes me
You're
feel
doing it
better.
right, my friend. I mean, like, it's hard to see when you're in the middle of it, but when you kind of look back, that's when you see the things you've accomplished. And you answered my last question is, are we going to see another album? Because you have such great collaborations and your voice is so amazing in itself. So I do
Oh,
hope you
thank
put
you.
out some new music sometime very soon. Let everyone know where they can find your amazing website that has all your work, and they can find sheet music, and they can get in touch with you for lessons and everything, and where they can get tickets for the show.
Yes, my website is michaelmott.net. And there, if you click on news, you can get tickets to the show. There's sheet music, voice lessons, like you said, music videos, everything's there. It's a nice hub, michaelmott.net.
Fantastic. Michael, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it every time you
You're
come
the
in.
best.
Sounds like there's some great things for us to talk about next year, and looking forward to that. Have a very happy holiday, my friend. Thanks again for being on Left of Str8 Show interviews.
Thank you.
Stay on the line for me. Guys, we'll be back for another interview tomorrow. Look forward to this. We'll have links to all of Michael's great work and everything in the link and show notes below. So look for that. We'll see you next time right here on Left of Str8 Show interviews. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.